I'm sure for those of you who follow this channel and in the last couple of months have followed my music-related features specifically, you've seen the pattern that persists with European music, and that is that it's a cycle of discovery, or gateways, you could say, to discovering new talent from one artist. That was the case with Linda Toni Grahn. Some of you might remember, again, a while ago, I covered Forever and Beyond. That was a collaborative effort between the artist I just mentioned and Mortimia, a Norwegian gothic symphonic metal artist. A very talented one if you've never heard his work before. But that was my first entrance way into listening to Linda Toni Grahn. And her vocals on that track were very compelling in their atmosphere and their range that I was like, I need to explore her more and venture out again with another artist that was unfamiliar to me, which I love. That's what music does in many regards, and especially within the European scene. And I've loved bringing European metal specifically. It's a favorite of mine onto this channel in a grander focus. Even more so than that, speaking of music generally, I love being able to make music a more prominent venture on this channel in regards to the entertainment offerings that I cover here. Music for me has always been a more dominant love and my favorite among those groups, even though everything that I cover really is, and there's so much talent in every atmosphere of the entertainment world. Music for me just really has this atmosphere that is unparalleled, and especially in its presence and its favorability with me, I've come to revere it as the deepest and most impactful art form in my life. With Linda Toni Grahn, certainly fits the bill of what I look for in new talent and compelling artists that perhaps are, and I judge this according to my personal social circle, which is rather limited, I'm sure, in comparison to many others. I don't have that many connections, to be honest with you, but I tend to judge the familiarity of artists by, are they a recognizable name among my peers? And about, I'd say 95% of the people that I bring up in terms of European artists, blank faces. Linda Toni Grahn, no disrespect or shade in any way, for anyone to get that feeling, that's what I'm trying to say here, because I'm not, but I'm sure 100% it would be an unrecognizable name. This fits into the mission and part of what I want to focus my music-related coverage on, and that is, again, amplifying talents that are perhaps lesser known but deserve a grander spotlight. And Linda Toni Grahn certainly is one. Some of you might know her name through other efforts. If you happen to be somebody who's ventured, or maybe you're a metalhead, but you specifically ventured into the European metal scene. You found a group, let's say, for example, Fall of a Cypher. She was the front lead singer for that group as well. But presently, again, that Mortimia collaboration compelled me to look deeper. She is now leading the group ANIMA. This is a new, newly formed group, as I understand. I don't remember when this track was. Oh, it was made public as of 8 months ago, or at least the video was. I imagine the track had the same debut date. Linda Toni Grahn, again, fits the pattern of what I want this channel to be in amplifying talents that might be unknown to many. Right? Maybe you've been yearning to find artists that broaden your playlist in regards to entertainment offerings from maybe more unexpected and diverse places. I'm sure for many of you concerning this channel and your music playlists, like me, your playlist is probably filled with many American talents, right? But you've been looking to venture outside into the world a bit more and see whatever talents are out there. Or maybe you haven't thought to. I've taken this journey when it concerns European singers and artists, and I've been highly elated and happy and content in what I found. And I, to the best of my extent, want to share that journey with you. And that's kind of the goal I'm approaching at this with, as it concerns Linda Toni Grahn and, I guess more specifically, ANIMA. But even more than that, I just want to hear more from her. Again, Forever and Beyond was a beautiful introduction, and Fall of a Cypher continued that as well. And though she's no longer with them, again, I really liked the tracks I covered, and I will, I think, be spotlighting at least one more. I've got that coming. But as it concerns the present, again, like I said, she's leading ANIMA. Let's gauge this piece. This is a fresh introduction for all of us in terms of the group, even though I'm very familiar with Linda Toni Grahn. I hope you will be as captivated as I was listening to her voice. And if you're not familiar with my music-related coverage and how I format these videos, again, I try and provide every accommodation I can to suit music tastes, because every listener, has different expectations of what they want to have in their content. So I do try and provide, I don't think the video does this, maybe we'll see in a minute, but if the video doesn't, I provide the lyrics for you. Should you want to read along with the song, and that is your preference of choice, I will have those superimposed in the video and the track along with the piece as we proceed forward. But as far as the video is concerned, for all of us, a first introduction to this group in focus, but for me, a second go-around of Linda Toni, well, fifth, actually, technically, with Linda Toni Grahn. I'm very happy to check her out again. Let's see some of her new stuff. has such an interesting style to her voice. I've always seen that with her. Oh. Beautiful. Hey, this electronic edge was consistent with Fall of a Cypher as well. Little more experimental though in the pacing. It is slightly different. Her vocals though are as capable as ever. Oh. It's a beautiful debut. Oh. I've said it before, I don't mind at all that my love for European music does, to some extent, isolate me more as favoring more of the niche and unknown. This is what I find. Do you see why I've ventured so heavily into this area of the world? This really is a beautiful piece of gorgeous video to accompany it. I love how there's just so many shifts in her voice. Again, it's like sometimes you go for the more vibrating operatic side, or maybe a flatter pitch. Then we get like a vocal blend from the other artists as well. There's so much dimension here. I love it. That climb, or climb/descent. Oh boy, that's long sustaining of that those measures, but it's just beautiful to listen to. Yes, shred. It's just beautiful. Again, like I said, the patterns of the note structure in this song are. Like, they come across, again, a bit more experimental in pattern, but they work very well. Make for a very enjoyable piece. We still got over a minute to go. Good refrain pattern back to the original opener. I'm very excited to see more offerings from this group. Solid outro structure. A lingering riff to carry us out. Isn't that just beautiful? Ugh. This is why I've, again, dived so deeply into European talent. Linda Toni Grahn is an excellent example. And I guess more speaking broadly here, Anima Vale. That's gorgeous. A lot of Fall of a Cipher connections and sound. Electronic metal, I guess, is sort of her thing. A little more subdued, at least in presence, slightly, than what Fall of a Cipher did. You know, I give this comparison. Electronic metal, for me, I judge it, you know, I'm not the biggest, like, electronic music guy. Like, EDM stuff has a bit of a hectic pacing I'm not always in favor of, unless it's blended to a more melodic side with the music. I guess to draw a better picture on this, if you're familiar with the type of, like, very frenetic, digitized music that they might play in clubs, for example, where it's like a just intense pattern of endless, like, strong notes, and maybe a DJ just belts out. No shade meant to be thrown at DJs, but I mean, you're talented, but just music has a very subjective taste in nature, especially when it comes to genre and preferred listens. That for me, EDM, at least in that sense, isn't necessarily as enjoyable, but when it's blended with the metal scene, especially as well as I've seen it blended with the groups I listen to, and it has more of a presence beyond just being, again, a bunch of belted notes that seem a bit more frenetic and disconnected and disruptive. It tends to be far more appealing. I've come across many groups that I count as exceptions to the electronic adversarial relationship I have, like, again, as I was saying, EDM, as it's more commonly seen. Some exceptions to note: Dead by April, who I also made a comparison to with Follow the Cipher coverage. They sounded very similar in comparison. This is a little more subdued in presence, but maybe other groups, I mean, that's in Europe, but I guess maybe to speak on other groups, let's say, for example, in America, Starset, MNQN, Knives, all three of those talented as well. They're common examples I use. Anima Vale, beautiful presence, gorgeously structured track. Of course, Linda Toni Grahn's vocals are mesmerizing, and her range is very capable. And to see how that was meshed together with the structure of the piece, the build-ups, the climbs and the descents, gorgeously orchestrated. But the pacing, again, of that introduction, the softer interlude to carry us in, blended with those riffs. I don't know the name of her accompanying guitarist. I wonder if the original video mentions him in the credits at all. Dennis. That's all I see. Okay. Beautiful to listen to. Gorgeous piece. I will definitely keep an eye on in the future with Anima Vale. Considering this is now Linda Toni Grahn's, I guess, pursuit, I'm happy to explore more from her. Again, I did come to follow the Cipher rather late. Mortemia was the introduction. I absolutely was enthralled with that collaboration. It's one of my favorites of his. It's really, all his tracks have been great listens in the realm of what I've covered on this channel. I've spotlighted in terms of his tunes, and I highly recommend him if you're not familiar. 9 of his works, I think, in total to date. And I'm keeping an eye open for future collaborations, because he's now doing the COVID Aftermath Sessions as his new album. So we'll see what other artists appear on the scene, but I was very happy to get an introduction to Linda Toni Grahn's work through him, because I was very impressed to follow the Cipher, and the same feeling exists with Anima Vale. And again, I love to spotlight groups that, considering how I judge my circles, are unknown and deserve a grander spotlight. This group fits, and this track was unveiled about 8 months ago, so maybe something new will come up pretty soon in the future. Who knows? It's a first single, a debut single, and it's very satisfying. What are your guys' thoughts of Anima Vale? I'm sure for many of you this is a first introduction. You're like, I've never heard of this group before. Maybe, though, you've come across Linda Toni Grahn as well, perhaps through my coverage of Mortemia. Maybe that's how you came to know this artist. You're like, well, I wonder how she looks familiar. Maybe you didn't remember her by name, but like I said, that collaboration spoke to her talents, as well as Fall of a Cipher. That was the second introduction I had, and Anima Vale fits right along that path. I'd love to hear your thoughts, so down below, what angle you come from in terms of your presence and familiarity with Anima Vale, or Linda Toni Grahn, or perhaps European metal, speaking more broadly. I would love to hear your thoughts on this piece if you so wish to disclose your thoughts down below. Like I said, I will continue to keep an eye open for future stuff from Linda Toni Grahn and Anima Vale. It's a beautiful first debut, though. Easy repeat listen. I'm very happy with it. It's a gorgeous piece, beautifully structured, fabulous energy, very capable vocals. I'm very elated with it. Thank you so much for watching this video. Before you bounce, feel free to drop a like and comment, subscribe to this channel with a ding on the bell, and share this video with your friends. And consider checking out the description here. There you'll find links to my other channels, as well as addresses to my other social media accounts and ways you can help support my work if you feel so inclined. May God bless you, and looking forward to when our paths cross again.